Joining me now is the former governor of New York and an independent candidate for New York City mayor, Andrew Cuomo. Governor Cuomo, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, Kristen.
Well, it's wonderful to have you here. Let's talk about the state of play in this mayoral race. For months, you have been arguing your path to victory in this race was to get a one-on-one matchup between you and Mr. Mamdani. Now that Mayor Adams has dropped out of the race, it's a three-way race. But there are only several weeks left until the election. Do you have enough time to consolidate support and win this race, Governor?
Well, it is a short runway, but we do have enough time because it's a very stark choice between me and Mr. Mamdani. You know, it's apples and oranges. We couldn't be more different. I'm a mainstream Democrat. He's a fringe Democrat. He's in favor of defunding the police. I want to add 5,000 police. He's vilifying business. I want to work with business. He wants to raise taxes. I want to cut taxes. He has virtually no management experience in government of any kind. He's a two-term assemblyman, passed 3 bills. I've been a governor, HUD secretary, et cetera. So it's a very stark difference for voters.
And we shouldn't say he hasn't called for outright defunding the police. He has called for investing in some programs that would strengthen some of the services provided by local law enforcement. I mean, there are a number of differences between you, but that's not necessarily one thing he's calling for. But let me ask you, Governor, because Mayor Adams is saying he's put out feelers to you and GOP nominee Curtis Sliwa about a possible endorsement. Have you spoken to Mayor Adams, and would you welcome his endorsement?
Yeah, just real quick, Kristen, Mamdani has said a lot of things about the police, but he also had a position of defunding the police. It changes. Most things do with him. I have not had a formal conversation with Mayor Adams. I look forward to it, and I expect to have one in the next few days. Would
you welcome his endorsement, Governor?
Yes, I would welcome his support. You know, this is a general election. It's Democrats, Republicans, Independents. I would welcome the mayor's support. I'd welcome big tent support. And the mayor obviously has experience, a great deal of experience, not just as mayor of New York. I worked with him in Albany. He was a state senator. So we know each other a long time. I'd welcome his support.
Has there been, speaking of a big tent, any communication between your campaign and President Trump? And would you accept an endorsement from the president?
No, the tent isn't that big, Kristen. That's the limitation. I have not had a conversation, nor would I accept an endorsement from President Trump.
So you wouldn't accept an endorsement from the president of the United States, who could help you potentially drive out some Republicans and some people who don't support Mr. Mamdani?
No, I wouldn't. I'm going to be appealing to Republicans. I'm going to be appealing to independents as well as Democrats. But I don't think we need to inject President Trump into this election.
Let me ask you, because earlier in this race, you talked about President Trump as a, quote, existential threat to this nation. Governor, do you still believe that? Those are strong words.
Well, I think you look at what's going on right now, Kristen, with the shutdown in Washington, and then what his administration has done post-shutdown, where they've actually used this moment. They've cut off funding to New York for counterterrorism services with the NYPD. They've ended transportation projects that are vital for the entire Northeast to increase their pressure. So these are very harsh tactics, in my opinion. It's an overuse of the federal government. It's a politicalization of the federal government like I haven't seen before. And I've been in the federal government, as you know. I was in the Clinton administration for 8 years. I worked with the Biden administration. But they're hyper-political.
So would you go so far, though, as to still characterize him as an existential threat to the nation?
I think he can be. I think he can be to New York. He has said, basically, if Mamdani wins the election, that President Trump would basically have to take control of New York because Mamdani is not qualified. He calls him a communist and that he's anti-police, et cetera. So he said he would take over New York. That kind of federal usurping of state local authority, I think, is an existential threat.
Okay, well, let me delve into this government shutdown a little bit more deeply with you. You referenced how it is impacting New York. OMB Director Russ Vought, just to give folks even more information, has frozen about $18 billion for two major infrastructure projects in New York City, which is what you just referenced. Governor, if you were mayor right now, what would you do? Is there anything you could do to stand up to the Trump administration in the face of these cuts?
Well, in general, in the face of these cuts, I believe, are a tactic in the shutdown fight. If you notice the cuts, they just coincidentally happen to be to Democratic states all across the country. And I'm sure that's turned out to be a coincidence, Kristen. But I believe it's related to the shutdown and pressuring the Senate and the House to actually come to a deal and come to the deal that the Republicans want. So I believe it's more of a tactic. In general, I think the way to deal with the Trump administration, and again, I have dealt with the Trump administration. I was governor, he was president. We went through the entire COVID situation together. And much of what he's doing now, he did at that time. He sent the National Guard into 20 cities at that time, not New York. Because what the president is doing with the National Guard and these actions across the country, it's his political theater, but it's his way of saying Democrats don't know how to govern. Look at these cities. They're a mess. Look at the homeless. Look at the crime. I have to come in and rescue the American people from these Democrats and these mayors and these governors who don't know how to do their job. He can't say that about New York. He couldn't say it about New York when I was governor, and he wouldn't be able to say it about New York if I'm mayor. I do know how to govern. I've been at all levels of government, and I do know how to govern, and that he knows. So you don't create the circumstance to allow him to enter. So
let me ask you about what we're seeing in the Democratic leadership right now, obviously both from New York, Leader Schumer and Leader Jeffries. Do you believe they are doing right by New Yorkers? They are pushing for these health care subsidies to be extended. They say they will not make a deal to fund the government until that's a part of the funding bill.
Yeah, no, I think they are doing the right thing, Kristen. Look, President Trump doesn't give you much choice. He has them in a corner, and he drew a line in the sand. And what they're fighting for is very important. The premiums on the Affordable Care Act are very important. The Medicaid issues are very important. So if you don't stand up to President Trump, he will just keep pushing you back, right? We know that. So I think they had to take a stand. I don't know that they had any choice, frankly.
Okay, let's turn to one of the biggest issues, for, frankly, all Americans, but New Yorkers certainly, the issue of affordability. Mr. Mamdani won the primary, as you know, Governor, in large part by highlighting his proposals to, as he says, make New York more affordable, including free buses, freezing rent. You were governor for 10 years. What do you say to voters who see you as the status quo and, frankly, part of the affordability problem in New York?
Yeah, well, you know, Mr. Mamdani learned from Mr. Trump. I remember when President Trump said, the day I'm elected, the price of eggs is going to come down. And it was like, how, why? But it's the dumbing down of politics, Kristen. You know, you can say whatever you want. And there's veracity or fact doesn't matter. Freeze the rent. Boy, sounds great. Great slogan, great TikTok, great tweet. Yeah, what he's talking about is freezing the rent on about 25% of the housing units in New York City, leaving 75% to absorb the increase that the 25% would have paid. And those 25% where you don't have a rent increase, you see them deteriorate. It's not a new idea. Bill de Blasio did it 3 times. And that's exactly what happened. 75% pay a higher rent. The 25% have it frozen for a period of time, and their housing deteriorates. So there's no real substance to it. It won't make a difference in anyone's life. It didn't work before under de Blasio, won't work now. What you have to do is build housing, right? My program, Build, Baby, Build. You have to build housing, and you have to build 50,000 units per year. You have to increase the supply, and that will bring the price down. We have a 1% vacancy rate in New York City right now, and that's the major problem. The solution is building, increase the supply, the price will come down.
But, Governor, what do you say to voters who hear what you're saying, but who would look at your record and say, look, you were governor for 10 years, for a decade. Why didn't you do more to make New York more affordable when you had the chance to do so?
Yeah, well, I was the governor. I wasn't the mayor, right? And as governor...
But you were the governor.
Yes, and as governor, I passed more bills with more funding for affordable housing than any other governor in the history of the state of New York, right? New York City is a special circumstance. New York City, it's very difficult to build. The political environment is difficult. The governmental environment is difficult. And production has been an issue in New York City. But I believe I can solve it as mayor. I was HUD secretary. I have built large projects in New York City. As governor, I built a new LaGuardia Airport, new Kennedy Airport, Kosciuszko Bridge, 2nd Avenue subway. So I've shown that I can get big projects done in New York City. My portfolio as governor was not to build affordable housing. That's a local government responsibility, but I can do it as mayor.
I know we're almost out of time. I do have a couple more questions for you, though, Governor, and I know you've had an eye on foreign policy for months. You and your opponent have disagreed over the war in the Middle East. It is worth noting yesterday, Mr. Mamdani condemned the October 7th attack on Israel. He called it a war crime. He also said what's happening in Gaza is a genocide. And just to give some backdrop, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, the death toll in Gaza has now surpassed 65,000. The UN says there have been more than 200 malnutrition-related deaths, including 103 children, Governor. Do you believe Israel is committing a genocide in the Gaza Strip?
Look, I believe it is obviously a horrific situation. We want peace. It's long overdue. To watch on a daily basis the carnage that is going on in Gaza is difficult for anyone.
But you don't go so far as calling it a genocide, Governor?
I don't. It's not my place to provide terminology in this political context. But return the hostages, eliminate Hamas, which is a terrorist organization, and let's have peace, finally. And that is long, long overdue. Now, my opponent talks about it all the time. It's not really a mayoral issue, but it is his main political issue because it is a very emotional issue. But also remember, Mr. Mamdani won't condemn the use of the term globalized intifada, which you made this point during your interview with him. Globalized intifada means kill Jewish people, right? New York has the largest Jewish population outside of Israel.
He has made it clear he does not condone that term, though, in the wake of the interview that I did with him several months ago.
He doesn't condemn the use either. And if I was saying kill all Italian people, kill all fill in the blank, of course you condemn that. Of course you condemn it. To me, it's disqualifying to seek to be mayor of New York City when you're unwilling to condemn the use of the term globalized intifada, which is kill all Jews, especially at a time when you see killings happening again and again and again today in the UK.
And obviously a lot of focus as we approach the October 7th horrific anniversary of the attacks there. So something I know you'll continue to focus on, that the mayor's race will continue to focus on. I want to shift gears a little bit, Governor. I do want to ask you about your own record. You resigned, of course, the governorship in August of 2021 amid a wave of sexual harassment allegations, which you have denied. What is your message to New Yorkers who are still troubled by those allegations, who still have questions about your character?
Yeah, well, I said at the time, you're right, they were political allegations. There is nothing to them. And when they are reviewed, you will see there is nothing to them. Since then, those allegations went to 5 district attorneys in New York State. Democrats, Republicans, upstate, downstate, short, tall, every political persuasion, absolutely no finding of any wrongdoing. 4 years of lawsuits all came to nothing. So it was political, and it amounted to nothing. Do
you have any regrets about your behavior at the time, Governor?
Vis-a-vis those allegations, no. In general, have I learned to be more careful, frankly? Just don't put yourself in a situation where anyone can say anything, where you always have a witness, certainly.
Finally, before I let you go, I asked your rival, Mr. Mamdani, if he thought billionaires should exist. He said no. Let me put the same question to you. Do you think billionaires should exist, Governor? Yes. Why? And it's ironic that he doesn't think they should exist, because he takes money from them. Look, is there gross income inequality? Yes. And are billionaires an example of the grossest of inequality, especially when you have such poverty in this country today? Yes. But our system is, God bless you, we don't redistribute income in this country. We do through the tax code, but we don't say this is the limit of money that you can make. We don't set a limit. And that is capitalism. And you want to be able to say to people, God bless you, you want to be a millionaire, be a billionaire, fly as high as your wings can carry you. Governor, we're way over time, but very quickly, some people think you're running for mayor because ultimately you would like to run for president. Would you rule out a run for president should you win this race?
I am running for mayor to be mayor. This is a city that is at a pivotal moment. I was HUD Secretary, Housing and Urban Development. I've worked with cities all across the country. I'm a lifelong New Yorker. I can tell you, Kristen, we are on the precipice, this city, and many cities across this country, by the way, post-COVID, losing people, losing businesses, more homelessness, quality of life deterioration. We have to turn this city around now, before it's too late. You cannot allow the hemorrhage to continue. Okay. And we have this far right and we have a far left, but we need people who actually know how to govern and make a difference and make progress.
All right. I don't hear you ruling it out, Governor. Thank you, Governor.
No, I have no intention. I have no intention to run for anything but mayor of New York.
All right. There you have it. Governor Andrew Cuomo, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.